GHRT Rewinds are brought to you by Laughlin and Wolfington Team. Your home sold guaranteed realty. Find out what your home is worth online instantly at LaughlinWolfingtonRealty.com. GHRT Rewinds are brought to you by Laughlin and Wolfington Team. Your home sold guaranteed realty. Find out what your home is worth online instantly at LaughlinWolfingtonRealty.com. Mike Soboleski, the Republican of Phillips, Maine, is running for the Republican nomination in Maine's 2nd Congressional District. Announcement made last week. Our chance to catch up and learn a bit about Mike and his candidacy now. George, he's on line 3 for GHRT.
Morning, Mike. If we learn a little bit about you, it'd take us the next 30 minutes to go through your resume, but it's a fascinating one. Nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for having me on this morning.
Veteran?
Yes, I am. Marine Corps veteran. When I graduated from Gardner High School, I enlisted in the Marine Corps, served down in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, and then used the GI Bill to go out and go to the University of Maine at Machias, way down east.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you know Parris Island, you know all of those, Camp Lejeune, you know all of those, and I happen to know them too, not personally. Your Marine background set you up for many, many things that you've done in life, not the least of which I'm fascinated by the fact that you were a stunt driver.
Well, thank you very much for that. That was an interesting time in my life. It was an incredible time in my life. I just by happenstance happened to get an audition in front of a casting director in Boston who cast me to go on Good Will Hunting as a reunion guest, then on Matchmaker with Janine Garofalo as a photographer, and then to New York City for an audition with Woody Allen. And it was one of my best ones I ever had because I went in there, auditioned for him, and he cast me to be in a scene in his movie Celebrity. And my role was to dance on the dance floor with Frederica Vandenhall, the supermodel.
Oh.
And I'm like, you guys are going to pay me what? How much? It's like, gosh. And then it kind of blew up from there. Got auditions on 2 NBC pilots in 1999, early 99. And Law and Order Special Victims Unit and Third Watch. I got cast on both, and that was the beginning of it. So it was a great career.
You were also in New York City on the fateful day of 9/11. Tell us about that, Mike.
Yes, sir. That was I was in my apartment in Midtown that morning when I heard about that, and I spent most of the first 72 hours down there working with that rescue mission. It was incredible, just incredible. Not only the destruction, the disaster, but the people that were there. I remember Wednesday morning around 9:30 in the morning, I had just finished up working in front of the 1010 firehouse, which is at the south side of that debris area. And I was walking up through, and people were gathering around what looked like a lamppost. And it ended up being the tower from the top of the one building. It came down 110 stories and landed almost straight up. And firefighters were making their way to the tower. They put a ladder up against it. They lashed an American flag to it. And it was just one of those American moments that were just unbelievable. We've all seen the famous photo of the 3 firefighters. But that was the moment when we all did it. And looking around and seeing all the different hard hats, the different uniforms, the nurses, the doctors, the firefighters, EMTs, steel workers, utility workers. It was a moment we all came together, and it was just incredibly powerful.
Well, Mike, it is an interesting life story. Out of Gardner High School and your humble beginnings, you've done great things with your life. Now you're in the legislature representing, last I knew, the 73rd District. But you've decided to challenge the Congressman Jared Golden in the 2nd District. He's been very successful from the beginning. What is he, 3rd term? What made you decide to get in this race?
Well, I believe that the hardworking Mainers and our retirees are not being represented well in Washington, D.C. I'm a lifelong conservative and a problem solver, and I want to go to Washington, D.C. to tackle those problems. We've got problems with our border, with energy, with drug and human trafficking. Our energy crisis, the Green New Disaster, is just that. It's a disaster. Electric bills are out of control. Energy is out of control. They're crushing us. And in my travels around the district over the past 3 or 4 weeks talking with people, electricity and energy costs, how are we going to heat the house this winter? What are we going to do? They're paramount. They're number one on a lot of people's mind. What they're doing with our children, whether it's the shadow government, the deep state, the liberals, the Democrats, whatever it is, what they're doing with our children, it's not only disheartening, it's evil. And if the hardworking Mainers of the 2nd Congressional District send me to Washington, D.C., I'm going to tackle that problem head on. I'll create legislation to not only put an end to it, but hold those people accountable.
Vying for the Republican nomination in Maine's 2nd Congressional District, we're meeting Michael Soboleski, the Republican of Franklin County of Phillips, Maine, this morning here on GHRT. I want to take a step back, and I'd like to know how you went from a Marine and someone who has a career of doing everything that you've shared, and then you pivoted to politics. How'd that happen?
Well, I've served in a number of different ways. I've served not only in the Marine Corps, but also for the U.S. Census Bureau. I've done 3 census in a row. And the last one that I did was here in the state of Maine. As the number 2 guy in the state, I ran all field operations in the state. And when I went down to Washington, D.C. for my interview, they told me that the problem I was going to have up here is that Maine's always been the last state in the nation to complete the census. So when I got back, we put together our team, and we decided to come up with creative and constructive ways to tackle that problem. And it all worked. When it was over and done with, the state of Maine, for the first time in decades, was number 1 in the nation. So we put together a strong team. So I know what my problem-solving ability is. Once that was finished, I got out of there in late 2020. I decided to go on and continue serving and decided this seat was available. Tom Schofield was the representative here. He had termed out, so I decided to run and successfully won the primary against an establishment candidate, and then went on to win by almost 15 points in the general election. Down at the State House, I've been assigned to Environment and Natural Resource Committee and Labor and Housing, and I enjoy the work very much. I enjoy my job.
Been involved in a number of things. That's an understatement, but you co-sponsored, as I understand it, some legislation in the lithium problem that we have here in Maine. There is a supply of lithium in the ground. We all know what that is. You sponsored a resolve prohibiting something. I know you're involved in that. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
About some of my legislation, sure. The lithium bill was, I wanted to find a responsible way to get at the lithium that we have here in Maine. Of course, Plumbago North down in Newry, that's a $1.5 billion find down there, and it's very, very high grade. This isn't the stuff that's going to be going into batteries. This is going to be going into chips. It's going to be going to medical instruments. It'll go into glass, like the screens for your cell phone and your computer. And the other side of that coin was there was a bill that was being presented by the department through Representative Scott Landry to get at metallic minerals at the same time. So Scott and I co-sponsored each other's bills. We worked together to get a doorway open to responsible lithium mining. They're doing rulemaking on it right now. I spoke with Commissioner Loisum about a week and a half ago. I've got to call her again this morning. And they're just about done with that, and we're going to be able to get at that very soon, and hopefully get that doorway open to Plumbago North so that they can get at that material down there.
Mike, I wonder if we can ask a couple of questions about statewide issues that you're involved in or have a perspective on that would give a listener an idea as to how you might represent them in Washington. And I wonder where you are on question 3, and that is the bill to take CMP and Versant's assets, perhaps spending, according to opponents of the measure, $13.5 billion for a government, some say government-owned, a nonprofit. Where are you on that one?
Well, that is a really bad idea. Putting that in the hand of politicians, I think, only exacerbates the problem that we have here in the state. and I'm against that, Pine Tree Power. And I strongly suggest or would ask anyone to vote against that. Keeping it independently owned or privately owned keeps the doorway open to competition if we can have some in the future. We've all seen what's going on. We put that in the hands of a political board. That's just going to go more and more and more green new disaster, more wind, more solar, more stuff that they can't even prove has made a difference in our atmosphere, in the quality of our atmosphere. So I'm strongly opposed to Pine Tree Power.
Well, Mike, I'm sure we're going to be meeting up with you as the election season goes along, and I'm sure Rick will have you invited here into the studio. I've got a lot of questions that have nothing to do with politics.
Give me a call. Just give me a call. This is myself.
I'd like to talk to you about having been the only one in this control room that I think whoever took a ride in a automobile stunt show and scared the pants out of me when I did that. So perhaps we can reminisce about the time I rode with the Canadian Hale drivers.
Oh, and I'd love to hear that story. And just for the record, George, I've only crashed once. That was not intentional. And it was on a Spider-Man movie, and wiped the car out on the side of it. And not my fault, by the way. Fire truck came a little too close, and we bumped and crashed it. But when they're spending that kind of money on a daily basis to do those scenes, that stuff's important. They checked, "Are you okay, Mike?" "Yeah, I'm fine." And they went straight to the radio, "Bring us another car." So, and we went again. So,
Mike, when you're in the neighborhood, let us know. We'd love to have you in the studio. Is there a website online where people can read more about you and your candidacy?
Well, thanks so muski for asking that, Rick. That's supposed to be my closing line.
Yeah.
But yes, the website is MikeSoboleski.com. It's SOBOLESKI. That's MikeSoboleski.com. There's a lot of information about me and not only my past, but about my vision of the future and hope for the future as well.
GHRT Rewinds are brought to you by Laughlin and Wolfington Team, your home sold guaranteed realty. Find out what your home is worth online instantly at LaughlinWolfingtonRealty.com. Realty.com.